You're listening to the Brian Crabtree Show on demand. Catch Brian live and local. Weekdays starting at 4 on Biz 1190. Replay at 9 p.m. on AM 920 The Answer. Details at biz1190.com.
You seem to believe that you have all of this information. For a guy that has zero intelligence...
Brian Crabtree.
Clarence. I wasn't done. Clarence.
All right, bombshell, breaking news by the day as more heads are rolling with the NCAA federal fraud scandal. Coach of Louisville, Pitino, former coach of Kentucky, storied coach, legacy coach of the NCAA. He's been suspended along with the athletic director of Louisville. FBI revealed Tuesday morning it's been running a 2-year investigation into what they're calling a nefarious illegal scheme of fraud and corruption throughout the entirety of college football, college basketball rather. 10 people connected to 2 separate but related schemes have been charged and arrested. 4 of them current college basketball assistant coaches, all of whom have been indefinitely suspended, some of them without pay. It's the biggest story in college football and college basketball history because it involves the federal government intervening into college recruiting and its practices. So here's what we know. Schools aren't on the hook. The United States Attorney June Kim said the assistants at USC, Southern California, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Auburn are all implicated, but neither the schools themselves nor the head coaches at those schools have been levied with any allegations. The men involved are financial advisors, former NBA agents, Adidas representatives, and assistant coaches. The corruption is money the men I just described linked up with assistants to funnel the players to schools with specific ties to shoe companies, namely revolving around this the names Adidas and Nike, but Adidas predominantly. Cash was exchanged when money managers and advisors, among others, wound up secretly funneling the cash to the families of high school recruits. The money was delivered in cloaked ways like through a youth grassroots basketball program. Sometimes it was a loan for a family member that was struggling and needed money to pay the bills who had lost their jobs. Sometimes it was cars, other goods and services, or small payments in increments of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. There are 3 separate complaints tied to the 2 schemes. The first scheme was to get assistant coaches to lure players to specific college programs. The second scheme was to get money to the families of those players. That's why they're tied together. The goal was for the player to have an allegiance to the shoe company, such as Adidas, after he left college. And I probably should say specifically Adidas. It started with a cooperating witness, an unidentified financial advisor, now revealed, not confirmed, but revealed as Martin Blazer, who was charged in 2016 by the SEC with fraud, Securities and Exchange Commission, became a cooperating witness after those charges were filed. The witness informed the FBI as a means of cooperation that he could bring light to fraud and corruption in the world of college recruiting because the witness, apparently Blazer, had been party to it in the past. Some of the payments were as high as $13,000 to $100,000. They used 2 undercover agents, and they did not notify the NCAA of the ongoing investigation. The rumor is that this case could expand massively and likely will into more teams, more players. They've even put out a hotline number for anyone that knows about these kinds of schemes, 212-384-2135. And as an example, I'm not going to go through each of these, but the one closest to us would be Auburn. Chuck Person, Auburn assistant and former NBA player, an Auburn alum, spent 27 seasons as a player, coach, and executive in the NBA before joining Bruce Pearl's staff in 2014. He's accused of handling a total of $141,000. He's been suspended without pay from Auburn from the complaint. In addition, here's what the complaint says, filed by the FBI and the U.S. District Attorney. In addition, Chuck Connor's Person arranged for witness to make payments directly to the families of the players Person was steering to witness. These payments defrauded the university by depriving it of the financial aid university continued to award to relevant student athletes under false pretenses. The feds allege that person accepted $91,500 from Martin Blazer, the financial advisor I just mentioned, unnamed in the report, who acted as the cooperating witness in the FBI's case. Person met with the FBI's informant and another individual last December. Person took $50,000 in cash as a bribe to steer a player to the interest of Auburn. There's multiple assistants and coaches that this has happened under. Interesting that Coach Pitino, has been suspended. I want to play you something that Coach Pitino, first known for Kentucky and big wins there and now at Louisville, I want to play you something he said back in 2014, and I think this is the linchpin in all of this. Aside from the other part, this is never going to go away. There's going to be bribery and a bit of this undercurrent of cheating. Maybe it's just a flood of cheating. That might be the better way to describe it when you look at this. A flood of cheating in NCAA sports, not just basketball, but football. It's going to continue until they pay the players what they're worth. This is a big business. These colleges and universities make a lot of money to operate their institutions off of this football. NCAA and basketball. NCAA sports, big money. Billions per year. Billions and billions. TV rights alone are massive. This is bigger than the NFL or NBA. And yet these college players, they have their likeness all over the place. You know, they have their likeness all over the place. It's being sold on these video games, on the PlayStation, the Xbox, and so on. They're selling jerseys. You remember the Fab Five back in Michigan around 1994? Chris Webber? He left. Remember he left? One of the reasons he says he left was because of the fact that he would look around the stadium, because at the time, his jersey was the number one selling jersey in the NCAA sports arena, period. And he'd look around, he'd look at all these jerseys that have been sold for $30, $50, $100, whatever they cost, and he's getting nothing, not a zilch. So this whole process of not paying players has ruined, in some cases, the game. That's why you don't see Duke winning again and again and again, because they get these great players. They play a year or two, and off to the NBA they go because they can't make any money. And it's causing people to skip college, which used to be where the heart and soul of sports were. It's where we turn when we look at what the NFL's doing. And I still don't think this is as bad as the NFL. I've got a question. I'm going to get to this in a second. Why is this even illegal? That's an ignorant question, but I ask it because this is just people being paid to build a relationship to endorse a product in the future when they presumably turn pro. And it's being used to manipulate the players into going to one school over the other. And the argument here is that the fraud, I'm getting into it now, I'm sorry, then I'm going to get back to Pitino's audio. The argument here is that the fraud is that this money has been directed away from the institution, the universities, and the sports programs, and into the players or their families' pocket, which is a form of fraud, and it makes it thereby illegal. I guess because a lot of these are public institutions, or that they have agreements of what they will do, the scholarship agreements and coaches agreements and contracts. And as they're routing money out, they are cheating the university out of money that they would have presumably otherwise gotten. That's rather bold to assume that. I'm sure there's much more to the lawyers listening. I know I'm botching up the federal law here. I'm not trying to play lawyer. I'm simply saying if it's illegal by law, and I presume it is, fine. I'm a big proponent of following the laws and not picking and choosing which ones to enforce. So I'm not advocating turning a blind eye to illegal activity of any kind. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be illegal. We should change it. It should not be illegal, what I'm describing, for Adidas to give money to someone. The hell, just give it straight to the player and go, we want to buy your loyalty now. And by the way, we'd like to introduce you to Coach Pitino over here. We sponsor a lot of athletics there. And thereby, the players can make a certain amount of money. And then every player has to submit to financials. It could be salary capped at $500,000 a year, $1 million to some people think it ought to be commensurate with what they produce. Maybe that's right. Maybe it shouldn't be a socialized country. Maybe it should just be capitalistic and they should make whatever they can earn. And there should be some cap limits on what the actual league and the NCAA can pay them. But that's the solution to this. Then you don't have corruption and cheating, because winning at all costs is what sports is. If you don't win, you look at my Tennessee Vols. They got a pretty good winning record, and the coach is on the fence because they didn't win against the right teams. You got to beat Florida. You got to do better against Georgia Tech than just coming back in the last part of the fourth quarter and winning when they give you the game. Because then you've got to go through Alabama and all these others. So the coaches are on the fence even when they have a winning record. That's too much pressure. I got to win. And so it's not who is the best team anymore that wins. It's who is the most covert at cheating to create the best team that wins. It's the way America is. It's just a reflection of what we've become, unfortunately. And sports just happens to be where a lot more passion exists than perhaps in a business deal selling sprockets where cheating is happening. Or where you're calling up your cable provider like Comcast, who promised you a $200 gift card, but not once but twice, that they never send you. And that's to me, that's a bigger fraud than these players getting a little money to help their family while they go through college. Now, I want to get back to Rick Pitino. I got off track there, and I think that was an important off track to have. I want to get to this Rick Pitino audio. And I'm going to play you just the first 5 seconds, and I want to stop it and say something.
I can't recruit a kid because he's a Nike. He wears Nike in the AAU circuit.
All right, stop. I can't recruit a kid. This was 2014. Rick Pitino is now indefinitely suspended from Louisville, perhaps implicating him or saying he had some sort of knowledge of this. But he's saying, 2014, I can't recruit a kid because he's in the Nike AAU circuit. What I just played you, I'm going to play you more of this, is the linchpin of this problem. I just learned about this yesterday. My son's in AAU basketball. And even at 10 years old, it's still all about the money. It's not even about winning at that age, it's the money.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Crabtree Show on demand. Don't forget to catch Brian live and local weekdays starting at 4 on Biz 1190. Details at biz1190.com.